to talk about changes, and you were talking about Sirius Radio, and we've had this discussion, and it's not for me. I don't want to put on something that's going to only play specific. I like the creativity of just having music come to me and changing my mind a little bit. And I live for the radio. I mean, we bought a Bose system, and it came with a little kitchen radio, and that's what I have on all the time. So part of me says that radio is almost more important than my history with albums, because I came to Nassau in 1971, and we went up to Bear Mountain on some kind of orientation trip, and the song, every time I hear Maggie May, is that the song? I know exactly where I was when I heard that song over and over and over and over. But radio has and radio has the ability to play so much, and like you said, right, you don't hear the top 10 all the time. You may hear number 50, and number 50 is absolutely the one that hits you the hardest, or it makes you think or feel a certain way. And all of those things, all those feelings eventually affect your physical health, and that's what we really tried to bring across today, is the effect of radio on people. So what is your experience with that kind of thing? I know that here on the show you have so many different avenues, and your people are experts. And I've listened to everything from the mix the kids do now, and it's just excellent. I mean, I have a really nice time. I enjoy listening to it when I'm cleaning, whether I'm working it, on things. So how do you explain all that? How do kids still stay so motivated?
I don't know about the motivation part. I think students come down here, they're playing. I mean, our director, Sean Novat, has done a phenomenal job in bringing the new youth to the radio station, in his recruitments, and getting the students in here, and in changing the format to today's sound. It had to go that direction, and he realized that he had to do that to attract students. So everyone I have met here, I don't know all the students because I'm not here, every day of the week. But the students that I've got to know here are absolutely solid in broadcasting. They want to do it. They're fun to talk with. They're exploring to see if this is for them. And, one of the missions, I believe, in the radio station years back, this is a learning laboratory. Yeah. So they're getting experience. Why we're internationally famous, if you want to call that, because we have the internet, iHeart Radio, as you mentioned. Yeah. We have 5. I believe the statistic came to me the other day, Joan, and Sean would know better on this, but I think I'm right. There's only 50 stations, educational stations, signed up for that. So that's a kudo for Sean, a win-win situation, him getting iHeart Radio. Also, we have now the presence of Facebook. Twitter, Instagram. I just became an Instagram user last night, just for the first time.
There. I can't do that,
well, here's where we have to look at this.
What?
You can't do it, but you have to realize in the radio business and the TV business, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I don't do Twitter, but especially Instagram is, from what I'm reading about it, is overtaking Facebook right now. Because of the fact is you can get a picture out instantly. So they can be on the air here doing a show, having fun, take a picture of their air staff, and bing, it's out to how many followers they have. So, that's how it changed. Now, let me take the program Your Family's Health. Let's talk about that a minute.
Sure, that'd be perfect.
It's the show is probably about 44 years old. And when I came here, the people doing the show was Narita Halverson and Anna DeShaughnessy. The program was 15 minutes then. We had 15-minute programs. And that went about maybe 10, 12 years like that. And then we changed it to 2 minutes a day. So it was a 2-minute vignette. They would take highlights, no guests. And that went on for about 5 or 6 years that way. Then the reader retired, and then what happened is Jane Brody came in with it for about 10 years as a duo with I think it was the reader left. It was Anna DeShaughnessy. And then somewhere along the line, someone else, Rosanna Mills, she came into the show for a short period of time. But it never, Joan and of course Anna really, solidified the program. It was probably about mid-90s, 90s, that we changed the show to a half hour, and we started bringing guests. And why that was we had the phones. Prior to that, we didn't have phones.
I can't believe how time has changed so much.
We didn't have a viable phone connection to the college in those days. Finally, in the 90s, we had gotten that. And so it was a win-win for the program. And here's the other thing is with the show, both me, you, and now Janine, our new host, we've brought down people that we wanted to learn something about health from. We saw an article. We are like songwriters. We see something we like. Oh, I ran it past you, and now past Janine. We booked the person on the program. We learned something from it, but in the end, our listening audience will take something from that message too. So, just in this show alone, what I have learned in the last 25 years that it's gone with phones is, the amount of medical knowledge. I'm not a doctor, but what I've learned from different modalities of health we have is just phenomenal.
Oh, it's crazy. I enjoy every day that I start here at the radio station. Talking about something always teaches me something. I may have an idea about the topic, right? Or you may have an idea about the topic, but once we do a little research about it, even today's show, we downloaded some articles, studies that we've read, and we've seen that music is huge, but radio is huge. Just the availability of communication, that how it gets to people, and the effect. The one thing that we were talking about a little bit before was Pennsylvania University did a study about domestic abuse, and women that have this kind of communication, outside communication, whether it be by radio, phone, or computer, are just actually able to really empower themselves and say no to certain situations. So I think that's kind of what we want to do is right. Am I correct? I think you've mentored me well.
Right.
But it does. And it makes me start my day a little bit differently than if I had been home and had my coffee and then did my job or whatever. This is it's right. It's a very, I think it's a wonderful avenue for educating the public.
You have learned so much as being a nurse, and you know a lot about.
That too. I forgot about that job.
You know a lot about medicine more than I do. And what you've learned out of the guests that we've had come through these microphones, whether they be in person or they're on the phone, is we just can't we can't put a number to that. What we've learned, you can't. And so on the other end, our listening audience will pick something up from that too. So I would compare us to songwriters. Why is that?
Why is that, Jim?
I'll tell you why. There's a show called the Sirius Satellite Countdown by a guy called Lou Simon. I would probably say he's probably a genius in the knowledge of the 60s, 70s, and 80s music, the artists, the musicians, all that. And what I had a tremendous amount of knowledge prior to that, but listening to him week after week, all of the songs that we took for granted, Joan, back in the 1960s, they all had a reason why they were written. They were written for people that were depressed. I'm going to give you an example of a songwriter real fast. Song Going Out of My Head by Little Anthony and the Imperials. Take Me Back, Little Anthony. Going Out of My Head, Little Anthony. I'm on the Outside Looking In, Little Anthony. They were all written by a guy called, I think his name was Teddy Randazzo or Randazzo, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I think it's Teddy Randazzo. He was going out married to a wife who was cheating on him back then. And he was a great songwriter. And what he did was, out of frustration to try to get her back, take me back, going out of my head. He was going out of his head with his wife. And he wrote these songs. And these songs became number one songs. So just like we find an idea for a show, we're like songwriters in a way that we bring the content of what someone wants to teach us. In his case, he took the content of being blue, being depressed, turned it into a number one song. And that's, if you go back to the whole history of how Lou Simon talks, most of this information out there by these songwriters was some pain that they were in, and they wanted to convey it out to a mass audience. And we listened to the song not thinking of how this came about.
Or relating to it. I mean, the biggest letdown I thought was when they started doing MTV. Is that what it was called?
Yes.
Where you no longer had to use your imagination when you listened to a song. They told you exactly what was happening in the video. And it took a lot. That really was really bad for me, because I like to use my own imagination. So if I heard a song before I saw the video, I was like, oh, that's what it's supposed to mean. And that's not the way music works. Music's supposed to be listened to and interpreted individually by the individual. So I totally didn't know that. See, I learned a lot from you, Jim. Now, if this is the end of this show, what would you want the listening audience the most to remember about the importance of radio and our health?
Well, I would say that when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is turn on a radio. I have it in my car all the time. No matter where I drive, it's on. And I pop around between different channels. SiriusXM, which I'm pretty much addicted to, is they're not called stations, they're called channels.
Yeah.
So I learned something from the Broadway channel, from the Sinatra channel, from the 60s channel, from the Blend, from the Bridge, from Love. There's a channel called Love. So even in my house, I have SiriusXM wired right into my computer. I can hear it through my speakers. I have it on my phone. So no matter where I go, if I'm someplace, and they just don't have music channels; they have inspirational channels. Mm-hmm. So there's something, and again, not getting away from Sirius back to this station here.
Yeah, we're good.
You can get all that here from this station, because the fact is we offer the opposite of, if you don't want to pay for Sirius, you can get it right here on WHPC.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. So, Jim, I want to thank you for allowing me to interview you today on the show. And I want to thank the listening audience for listening to Your Family's Health.
This brings an end to another edition of Your Family's Health. Joan Buckley and Janine Cook-Garrard are professors of nursing at Nassau Community College. Your comments are always welcome by emailing whpc@ncc.edu. This program was produced at the studios of 90.3 WHPC on the campus of Nassau Community College. Podcasts of the show are available on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker.com. Join us again next week for another edition of Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.